Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are doing the tier list for hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and their applicability and usefulness. So yeah, that's basically it. We're just gonna hop right in. Obviously, Maxi is a tier above itself. It is a meta-defining card, it is a format-defining card, and it is a ban-worthy card basically at any point in time. Yeah, it doesn't matter how good or any other deck is, Maxi will always be a card that you just have to deal with. Moving on, we're gonna just the rest of the cards. We have Maxi, needed, average, situational, and bad, and these are all just hand traps. Let's go with Ash Blossom. It's needed. Why? Because of Maxi. That's basically it. Realistically, I think Ash Blossom just isn't good right now. It doesn't do enough, right? Trading for a single card, which really doesn't stop much, except for maybe Branded Fusion, which comes up one in every, 20 games? It's just not really worth it right now to be running when you could be running much better hand traps. Moving on, Battle Fader. Battle Fader's bad. Ghost Spell is very situational. Some decks may want it if you're playing like a myriad of hand traps. Like, for example, maybe a 60-card list of Dragon Link. But 60-card lists of Dragon Link are really bad, so why would you do that? But, I mean, it's not bad. It's good against, like, Labyrinth. And it's kind of good against Pearly. I mean, it's not great against them, but it's kind of good. It sometimes stops Kashtira with, like, Birth Reborn stuff. I don't know. It's not great, but it can come up occasionally. Winter Cherries is just bad. There are too many cards currently in the meta that are available. Maybe if, like, you don't need your extra for something, you could play this, and you could play a bunch of different cards in the extra to Winter Cherries. I don't know. No, you just play like Pot of Extravagance and Prospy and stuff like that and just banish them anyway, so Winter Cherries wouldn't be very good. Contact Seed just isn't great because of the fact that there isn't much fusion summoning, which is normally what you would use this against. I guess technically you could use it against, like, Pearly? Maybe? Nah. All in all, it's just not great. DD Crow is honestly kind of better than previously, mostly due to the fact that it is able to hit spells and traps. So hitting something like a Pearly spell or trap it is decent so that Pearlily can't do stuff. But even with that being said, like, there are just better options. And you're not really getting anything out of it. You're just kind of stopping them, but it's not really great. This card's bad. This card's bad. This card's bad. This card's also bad. Dear Lanta, holy... There really is just every hand trap in here. Most of them are bad. Let's be honest with ourselves. And that guy. Cool. The rest we can talk about. Shifter. Hey, look, if you can play Shifter, you should play Shifter. Shifter is still crazy. It's really good. Period. It has been for a while. Period. Kashtira. One of the reasons that Kashtira is even playable at the moment is because of this card, because it's very strong. Same with Flu, right? The reason that Flu is still playable is because of Shifter. Being able to prevent your opponent from sending cards to the graveyard, or even chaining to your opponent wanting to send cards to the graveyard, is pretty good, if you ask me. It's decent against Pearly. It's not insane, but it's decent against Pearly. What else? It's good against Dragon Link. It's good against... it's decent against Sword Soul. It's decent against, like, the rest of the metagame. But the important part is, like, the fact that it's a multi-turn Floodgate. And it turns off Maxi. Cool. Which means you don't have to deal with Maxi on your turn. Well, you might, but if you activate this on the opponent's turn, then on your turn you're not going to have to deal with Maxi, which is cool. Next up, we have all of the bissules. We're going to just kind of rank all of these together. Honestly, I'm just going to rank one of them because they all more or less do the same thing. But bissules are pretty average. Similarly to DD Crow, I think DD Crow is a little bit better because it can hit specifically spells and traps. But the bissules aren't bad. There's just not a lot of lights and darks specifically in the game that are in the grave often enough. But they're still good. It's just, yeah, I don't know. They're fine. That's it. They're fine. If you can play them, or like you're playing Branded or Dragon Link or something like that, yeah, they're still great. But they're not as good of like hand traps to interact with your opponent and kind of get advantage off of them. Especially with Magnamut at 1. If Magnamut was at 3, maybe I would say it's a little bit better, but even then it's still not great. It's decent against Mathmech, which has been a deck that's been seeing more play as of late. So there's that. Next up we have Drawl. Here's the problem with Drawl. There are so many plays and so many decks that can play around this card that it makes it not nearly as useful. It's not as like generically good, but it's still good against the deck. Like it's still really good against the decks that it's really good against. Like for example, against Pearly, it's pretty good. But Pearly can play around it by doing stuff in the draw phase, so there's that. But very rarely are people doing that, so it's still good. I'm gonna probably put it above these. Other decks, Sprite, it's good against. It's like decently good against. I would say it's good against Kashtira, but honestly, Kashtira only searches like once anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal. It can be good against Kashtira. It's not like, maybe it's good against Sword Soul. I guess it's good against Sword Soul. Sure. It's decent. No, it's not. It's bad against Branded. I was gonna say it's good against Branded, but it's just not. Dragon Link is Dragon Link has plays to play around Drawl even after getting Drolled. So yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's just not like a card that every deck should be playing. It's an option. Similarly to Gamma, I think Gamma's a little bit worse, but Gamma's still good. If you have a way to like, for example, in Pearly, it's pretty decent because if you activate a quick play, your opponent chains Max C, and then you go Gamma, and then you get additional advantage. Or other such decks like that, where it's like, I'm going to activate a spell, your opponent's going to activate the Max C, and now I get to go and activate the Gamma. Or, you know, if they Ash or what have you, you get to now activate the Gamma. That's normally what I would say warrants playing Gamma, if you have something like that. Because as a hand trap, sure, it's good going second, but it's even better if you're able to also have something useful for it going first. So yeah, there's that. Ghost Ogre's not great. It can hit a few things like my friend Pearly, which is a decent hit, but honestly at that point it's not really worth it to play that when you could just play Drawl, because if they my friend Pearly, then you just Drawl them and then they can't get the searches off of the other cards, so it's not really that big of a deal. I've missed some cards that are bad. Imperm. Imperm is really good. Imperm just has been good, and it's still really good. The main reason that Imperm happens to be really good is twofold. One, being able to target, effect, negate, and negate for the rest of the turn matters a lot instead of just negating a certain effect, because of a lot of cards that now have multiple effects. So for example, negating Fenris, while also not triggering a monster effect, is pretty nice, meaning that the Fenris is now just negated. They don't get to get that search. Being able to negate any of the Pearlies, the Pearly or the Pearlily, means that they can't tag out into the Xyz monster. Being able to also use it on your turn to negate something that would cause issues or to force out a negate from your opponent. And most importantly, the second option, or the second reason that this deck or this card is so particularly good, is because it doesn't play into Called By, which happens to be at 2. So yeah, basically if you imperm your opponent, it's almost always going to go through. Iris Sword Soul is just bad. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't really have anything else. It's just not really good in any form right now. Having a 2500 effect monster that can summon itself isn't great. That's all. Lancia's just, I'm gonna put it in situational, but it's not great. And the reason for Lancia not being great is because it's only really good against Kashtira. But if you, or like Runic, I guess. But no one is playing Runic, which they should, because Runic's actually really strong right now. More specifically with like Runic Sprite stuff. But alas, whatever. I'm trying to think if there's anything that Skullmeister even remotely touches in the current metagame, and it's just no. Skullmeister's just not worth it right now. Oh, what is this card? I know this card. I just learned about this card like today or yesterday or something like that. But I know... Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, no, it's bad. It's very situational, and even when it does come up, it's still not great at solving the issue. Ghost of Morning and Moonlit Chill, I believe, is the name of this one, which is a targeted effect. It's kind of a targeted effect negation. This one can more or less be kind of like Ash. This one's not great. It's just Imperm, but worse. I guess it's more playable if you are also able to have, like... Sorry, it's more playable because it's something that can allow you to negate something that's been special summoned outside of the main phase of the opponent's turn while having cards on your field. So sometimes it comes up. Like against Pearly, because they'll play in the draw phase, you can negate during the draw, or like during the draw phase, unlike something like Effect Failure. However, with that being said, I still think Effect Failure is a little bit better because of its more generic usability. Moonlit Chill's not bad. If you can use it, it's good because like you aren't going to be chain blocked and stuff like that. But even with that being said, it's still a little bit too situational. And Effect Failure is just going to come up a little bit more often. Yeah, not being able to negate like during the battle phase or during the draw phase does matter, but honestly, most of the time people are just going to play in the main phase anyway, so you can just negate to your heart's content. Nibiru is pretty good. Not gonna lie, Nibiru is in a really strong position right now. Yes, it like Pearly doesn't play into it, but almost every other deck does. I guess Pearly and Labyrinth don't, but almost every other deck does. Sprite has been playing into it more and more because they have gotten more and more greedy. Mostly due to the lack of other cards that they have available to them. So there's that. But more specifically, Sprite has seen less play, which means things like Dragon Link, things like Punk Kashtira, things like the list goes on, of other such combo decks that do just play into the Nibiru, and then you can Nibiru them and win the game. Yeah. Also, Makonko and such going second decks have been more common, so being able to just kind of like pass the turn and know that I'm not going to die because I have Nibiru and maybe another hand trap is very nice. Dogwood. Spooky Ghost Girl and Dogwood. I forget the name of this one. The life gain effect is just not worth it because Maxi exists. This is just bad right now. There's not really any fairies that are useful for Orange Light, so it's just not really worth it. I forget what this one does in particular, but it's another C card that isn't Maxi, so it doesn't really matter. This one, the only reason I'm not going to put it in bad is because there is a situation where your deck can search a ritual monster, like for example in Dogmatica or in Megalith or in whatever other deck wants to send the Herald of Arclight to the graveyard in order to search out a ritual monster, in which case this card is actually pretty good as an additional protection. It's a negate for something that would target your monster, which is, hey, that's pretty good. However, it very is situational. It's very much so situational, and doesn't really come up all that often. However, it's not bad because of that. It's just that, yeah, you're only going to use it in very specific situations. This one's just bad. Phantasme... There aren't that many Link decks, so it's not really worth it to play this. Same with Token Collector. There's, like, no token decks. Tragodia is just mid. I forget what this one does, but I know it's not great. And yeah, that's basically it. That's all of the hand traps. I mean, there are more bissules, but honestly, yeah, there aren't really a whole lot of hand traps that are great right now. With that being said, I did do a video on staples previously, so obviously if you want to look at, like, other such staples like Evenly Matched and Triple Tactics and stuff like that, you can go watch that video. And some of these have overlapped, like Chaos Hunter and Lancia. But honestly, all in all, what I'll say is Maxi and Ash are kind of necessaries. Like Maxi, obviously, you're playing 3 of that almost always. Same with Ash Blossom to stop Maxi, particularly. And then everything else is just kind of there for reasons. If these 2 weren't in the game, or more specifically, if this one wasn't in the game, Ash would be significantly lower, etc., etc., and this would actually change quite a bit. But because of the situation that we are currently in Master Duel, alas, here we are. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, I like us very much, so appreciate it. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.